Thank you. I'm Hilary Boyd, a colleague of Sheila's in the Trust, a child and adolescent psychiatrist. And I'm just wondering how you manage the whole area of risk in sessions. I'm thinking particularly of the inpatient unit that you referred to earlier. I'm thinking about how some of those young people will, in their day and daily lives, be acting out to be self-harming, and how that manifests itself during music therapy sessions.
Okay, maybe I
you can answer that one.
Well, we have a whole range of risks that we have to think about. I mean, the obvious one is being hit or hurt ourselves. We have clearly, if we were really concerned about that, we have a session with another member of the team in the room. We also have a video link to another room. So, but then of course there are the other risks, which might be that a child might make an allegation that we had done something. So again, we can use video links for that. Or we could have sessions with the child and the parent. Again, we might have to video that. I think we have to support each other. I don't know whether you want to say anything generally about the risks within the child family psychiatric unit.
I think the key, in addition to the things that Mia's talked about, the key is communication, and it's about, for me, it's about linking, it's about not having music therapy as a kind of isolated therapy that's not linked with the rest of the team. And I think when music therapy is delivered in that way, I've not experienced it, but I think that I can see that the risk could be quite high to the therapist and the young person. But certainly in our team, kind of, as in all teams, actually talking to each other, identifying if there's kind of particular issues happening for a child on that day that might make maybe any kind of therapeutic session quite risky that day, then being prepared for that. So it's really about embedding that therapy within the team and using the risk assessment and management of the whole team to kind of support it. Does that answer your question?
That's lovely. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? There's so many different aspects of today. The actual clinical work, which is kind of moving, but also these very strong results that we have, and the importance of rigorous research. I don't know whether you actually haven't said anything, Valerie. Have you got anything like that?
So I'm not Sam Porter, as you can see. So I'm Dr. Valerie Holmes, and so I just represent the research team. And just to say that what a privilege it's been to work with the Northern Ireland Music Therapy Trust and with Belfast Health and Social Care Trust to deliver this. And thank you to Tracy for outlining that it's been a long road and a long journey, but we're delighted to be here today and that we have the results to show for that work. And we do hope that these results will be the start of a change in terms of service delivery for young people.
At some point somebody said something about these results having an impact in Northern Ireland. I think these results will have an impact for music therapy throughout the world. I mean, people are going to pounce on these results. I hope there'll be lots of publications, because we desperately need these results to get out there and for us to use them. I don't know whether you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, I can say something that I've been thinking about. When I started to do research some 15 years ago, I came from clinical practice, and I thought then that after 3 or 4 years of research I would go back to clinical practice. That never happened. The research always became more and more for myself, but I also see that as a general tendency. We have one project finished, we're happy about it, tick that box, and we go to the next project 10 times larger, or let's say comparing different combinations of treatments like has been suggested, or comparing different ways how music therapy could be delivered. And those of us who understand methodologies of quantitative research know that the more detailed those questions become, the bigger the sample sizes have to be. It's a good news for researchers because it means that the job is never finished. But I also wonder, when do we feel as a community that we have enough knowledge to be able to apply it and to leave the rest to the practitioners and to kind of trust them that they are doing good work? It's a question that I have for myself and for us. Thank you.
If I may, I just wanted to make an observation which I shared with people over lunchtime. It's unfortunate, it's great that the three ministers came today, thinking about this more parochially. But it was unfortunate, I think, that those very, very lived experience videos were shown after the ministers left, because I think whilst the RCT is really, really important and it gives us a very, very strong evidence base, I think that decision makers and policy makers, and particularly Mr. Wells, I think we need to be focusing in with him and the Health Committee with those real life stories, because I think that's the way to get people to understand the power and the impact of this intervention. So I think in terms of next steps for trust, and certainly anything I can do to support that, I think that would be a really, really good thing for you to try to do.
As we've learned through experience over the years, any time a minister says yes, my door is open to you, or any MLA, we have seized that opportunity and gone up the hill. And believe you me, after that today, that was one of the things that actually did upset us when we were planning today, and they said, no, look, it's an executive meeting day, we have to leave early. And we fully appreciate that there is business going on. But it was one of the things that did upset us, because we thought there's such a fabulous lineup, and everything that we're going to hear today would do so much to change mindsets. But as they said, the door is open, so we're about to kick it in.
I agree with what you were saying. I think this research is going to have a very far-reaching impact. We've come from Galway today. We're senior speech and language therapists. We are part of a team that uses music and sound therapy. We're seeing a huge difference with it, and I think to have this kind of research adding to the research that's already there is just fantastic. So I think well done to everyone involved. It's amazing. Yeah, it's going to be great. Not only for us as practitioners, but I think obviously for the children that we work with. And that's really what it's all about. So well done. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Stephen Sandberg. I used to be chair of the UK Music Therapy Association. And I did an apprentice with Karen way back a long time ago. When I was young. And I'd just like to say thank you, Karen, and the Northern Ireland Music Therapy Trust for all that you've done for UK music therapy through the tenacity you've had with this trial and keeping it going and taking the risk. And I think, speaking to the UK music therapy population, you're leading, the province is leading the way. In response to the comment that was made about looking at configuration of services through skill mix, I think the comment that I'd make is that music therapists train generally in London or Limerick. The financial investment to train as a music therapist now is vast in terms of the length of the course and the potential to have to move house in order to do that. And as someone who now works in London, and didn't manage to sustain a career in music therapy in Northern Ireland because there weren't opportunities available, that's something that needs careful thought in terms of delivering music therapy more comprehensively.
I fully agree with that, and thank you very much. It's lovely to see you back today. And many a conversation we had in the early stages of this research, it's like, are you seriously going to ask these hard questions? But we're so glad we did. I totally agree, and that's one of the things that alongside the clinical work that we've been engaged in the research, one of the roles of the Music Therapy Trust is about developing this as a career for people. And we've been actively involved, and when they said, we're now included as part of the AHD strategy, it is only because of the work that we did and the lobbying that has been carried out. And I'm delighted to say that part of that ongoing work and the outworking of it is that they are now actively looking at the workforce configuration, and we are being included in considering how that may be developed in the future.
I think, Karen, just to reiterate, the work you've done to get music therapy recognised as an allied health profession in Northern Ireland is tremendous. We live across the water from London and have balked at the actual disparity there is between the creative arts therapies and other AHPs in Northern Ireland. It's preposterous that it's taken this long, but well done.
Thank you.
Can I say something? Yeah, I was just going to say how impressed I've been by many things. Food, it's been fantastic. Particular close to my heart. But returning to the trial, I think the treatment adherence is fantastic. I mean, we've talked about outcomes, but actually getting young people to attend sessions every week for 12 weeks is, for any of us who work with children and young people or have them in our families, getting to do something every week is almost impossible. So it is with my teenagers. But I think, as I think Philippa said in her presentation, the children and young people are voting with their feet. This is a therapy that they engage with, and I think thinking about the question that was posed about where does music therapy fit in, of course, in the ideal world it would be available to all, but I think in the real world, particularly for me, particularly those hard to engage people, young people are a group where I think music therapy has a particularly unique role to play, and the children that we're talking about are very expensive to us as a society if we don't get it right. So if these children are not engaging with anything, if they're not in school, if they're not kind of building their self-esteem and finding a kind of positive role in life, we will all be paying for them. So I think, thinking about where music therapy it would sit, maybe that's just a thought to kind of hang on to.
My name is Kieran and I work in secure care in Northern Ireland here, and it's a regional centre for adolescents who are at risk for themselves or risk to other people. I just want to say how encouraged I've been by today. I think that it's brilliant. I see the same young people leaving the centre and coming back to the centre constantly. See very little working, and that's what it feels like a lot of the time. Apart from maybe relationship building and things like that. And in terms of the talking therapies, a lot of them aren't at that stage at all. And a lot of us as workers, a lot of social workers, a lot of magistrates want the young people to be at that stage and are almost trying to force the young people to be at that stage. And I think the things that I have seen working with the young people, and it's not been in an organised fashion or in a very professional fashion, but in terms of creative arts, music, art, sports, things like that are going to build self-esteem and let young people express themselves is what I have seen working. So I just want to say that I'm really encouraged by all that's going on and the research that's going on.
To ask a question. Somebody, I think it was Catherine, was saying something about skills mix. And I was just wondering what exactly was meant by that. Was that meant that we've all got to mix our skills and be able to do everything? Or was it, no, sorry.
No, skill mix refers to people from a range of disciplines and skill sets.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about multidisciplinary teams.
Yes, CAMs can be dominated by particular therapies that, say, systemic family therapy or something like that. You know, there are comparatively few CBT, qualified CBT practitioners, so it's about introducing greater skill mix, having people like psychotherapists, having people like occupational therapists, going with a range of skill sets is essentially what's meant by that. And not everybody, of course, employed as 8Cs, 8Ds or whatever, you know, that actually further down the food chain, maybe a band 5, band 4s, who are able to engage very effectively with children and young people. So it's about introducing greater skill mix. That's effectively, that's
Okay.
what I mean by that.
Because there is also this kind of movement that we should all be able to do what everyone
Yeah,
does,
no,
which
it's not
is
about being
kind
universal.
of not so easy. I don't know whether anyone wants to do this.
Hello, my name is Helen Brown. I'm Regional Training Coordinator for Fostering in Northern Ireland, foster care training. And I suppose when I heard about skills mix, it made me think, I got excited about that because I suppose from my perspective there are almost 3,000 children in the care system in Northern Ireland, and all of whom would benefit greatly from this type of intervention. It's very exciting. I would be a great advocate of this type of work. But I suppose I have, you know, once I firmly believe that, I suppose I'm realistic in terms of our climate and where we're at financially. And I suppose it's really about how does everyone, all the need, the children out there with great need, get a slice of this. And it may be that they can't have a music therapist in the foster home, but perhaps looking a wee bit more, this is a creative environment that we're in, and maybe looking a bit more creatively at how the expertise that is around can then be distributed. And I think, you know, in training that I'm involved in, there is that notion of cascading, and I know I'm afraid that I won't get out here alive if I talk about some dilution of music therapy, but I think, you know, I'm wondering whether there's any opportunity for training therapists, I suppose transferring some of those skills to, as was just said, to people who work very effectively with children day and daily. And I suppose I'm talking about foster carers who have a lot of skill and a lot of empathy and a lot of ability with children to understand greater, you know, what music therapy is and how that can play a part in everyday life.
Absolutely. We are very aware that we are a very scarce resource. There aren't that many of us. And given the current funding climate, there are unlikely to be huge numbers. And yet that was something that from the day that the Northern Ireland Music Therapy Trust was established, it was never just about providing music therapy clinical services in their own right. Part and parcel of what we offer is training and advice for parents, carers and other professionals in whatever context it was, on how they could actually integrate music in as part of what they do day and daily. Because, you know, there's no point on us, it's all about the children that you're working with, it's all about attachment issues, and attachment is very much at the centre of what we do and the core of what the therapy is about. And so we're very keen on actually training up staff and giving advice on how you could integrate music to help the developmental needs of the children as well. So there will always be those children who need the specialised service, but there will always be a greater number who, if we actually have more people equipped in the community, confident about using music, because again we run into the old problem, I didn't do it at school, I'm no good, and gosh, don't ask me to sing. You know, when you consider the average child has to be 5 or 6 before they know if you're singing in tune or not, so why would you worry? So, you know, you could get away with it. That's quite reassuring for them. But no, and that's actually something that I'm very, very keen on, and it's something we are currently looking at, developing resources that can actually be left with people to use in certain contexts. So it's tailor-making it to exactly what's required, because one size does not fit all. And one age will respond to one certain type and need that input, whereas older children, you will need to be very up on what's up on X Factor or The Voice. But no, that's something we're very committed to, and fully appreciate that we can't be everywhere, but we certainly can. What we certainly can do is actually give advice and give training.
Yes, but.
Yes, but.
But I think it's important still, you have probably implied that, but since you haven't said explicitly, I will say it's also important to distinguish between music therapy and other applications of music. And so this study has shown that music therapy is effective. Whether music applied by other people is effective, that would be the next study.
More research the
Yes.
next time.